Hey everyone, my name is Adam, and I'm here to show you how I made a Siren Head poseable action figure for stop motion. I used a series of sockets, which I had to use the thermoplastic to make the individual ball sockets, and I used plastic balls to put into those sockets, and then I melted those balls onto a steel rod. Make sure you use ventilation. I textured the rods so that the thermoplastic does not turn on the rods. It helps them keep them in place. I used aluminum to build up the body, giving a good couple thwacks there to form it in shape. Also used aluminum tape. It helped make the surface a little bit smoother and keeping things together for me. I used thin sheets of thermoplastic that I either rolled out with my hands. You can use an actual roller as well. Making some rib cages. Putting another sheet on the back. And just trying to get the basic backbone kind of a shape to it. Very basic. Putting on the breastplates. Forming those rib cages a little better and using a tool. I forget the name of this. They use it to cut foam. It works well cutting and melting thermoplastic. However, it does evaporate the thermoplastic, and I highly recommend that you use some kind of device that will suck away those fumes. Trying to just fit it on there so that cavity is empty inside. Again, just rounding out the basic backbone structure to the lower tailbone. Making those details. Siren Head, he is a hybrid alien that's mummified. That fell into a telephone pole or something, or just merged with one or something. I don't remember the full story of it. I suppose I should. My son is the big fan of Siren Head. I made this for my son. Siren Head's actual head. I planned on putting 2 sirens. I've seen them with as many as 3 to 4 or 1. I mean, the variety of sirens out there are endless. This particular Siren Head, I wanted him to have a light. And since a lot of his ligaments are kind of like wiry anyway, and he has actual wires in him, I just thought, well, when I'm finally going to be painting him, it'll all just blend together well anyway. Making the siren, precisely melting those together. Making sure everything's moving correctly. This was a fun project. It took me 4 months to do, though. 4 months. And that doesn't even include the editing. It really took me a long time to trial and error how to manipulate this material as much as I could. And if you're wondering why it's blue, because it's not naturally blue, and I would, if I was originally planning on making a Siren Head, I would not have made it blue. It's just because I was actually doing another project before this using blue that I decided wasn't the right path I wanted to take. I put all these ligaments around the neck, trying to hide those ball joints. There is absolutely no way to hide all the joints in an action figure. Let's just face it. I tried my best, though. I tried overlapping. I tried lots of experimenting. Adding as much detail and wrinkles as I can, since it is a mummified old creature. Again, there's that overlapping you can see I did in the knee joints. Trying to hide those balls as much as I can. I could have did a better job with the feet. By this time, I was about 3.5 months into this piece, and I was really wanting to get it done. So I didn't put as much detail into the feet as I probably should have. As you can see, I did put magnets on the bottom of those feet because the base that I used for Siren Head is metal, so he can easily stand on it. And also the rotating I don't even know what it's called. I use that to show you and display at the end here, so he could just, stand on there and be magnetized to it. These hands were ridiculously hard. They each took over 2 days to make, if not longer. I didn't really calculate the time all that much. All I know is that it took more than a week to do 2 hands. Each one of these joints, these little balls, only 1 out of 3, sometimes 4 work. I'm trying to find the right grip, the right consistency, so that when I move the fingers, they all move correctly at the same consistency. That's in order to have a creature or in stop motion, everything has to be uniformed. The only exception is I made the knees, hips, and ankles more rigid because those were supporting the main weight of the figure. And that's another reason why I made Siren Head hollow inside as much as possible, to really lessen the amount of weight that are on all these joints. Now, another thing is you cannot heat up these joints. You can see that I have, and I figured out that only on the far end, farthest away from the actual ball joints, was I able to melt, and only down maybe 1 to 2 millimeters at the most. Otherwise, you will lose all of the grip that those joints have on those steel balls. On those steel balls, I used tiny little arc welders, and I wanted to hide the reflection of those steel balls using, I forgot the name of this fabric, but since this fabric is made out of plastic and it stretches, it adheres very nicely to thermoplastic. Thermoplastic will stick to pretty much any kind of plastic. Doesn't stick to rubber though. Again, just trying to hide these joints as best I can, make them as uniformed as best I can, using any technique, experimenting a lot, and this is just what I found out to be the best way. The hands were actually my favorite part, even though they were the toughest. Now with the mouth here, I wanted the ability to change out the amount of facial expressions, even though there isn't, let's just face it, he's just opening his mouth and sticking out his tongue. But I still wanted the ability that if I ever did make a stop motion video with this character or my son, to have the ability to make some more faces. So I came up with the idea of putting a magnet on the backside of the actual siren and the backside of his mouth, and it's quite easy just to interchange and move around that mouth inside, as you can see. Making sure that light works. Now I wanted, since the battery cage or whatever it is pretty big, I was grateful that the hollow cavity inside of Siren Head was big enough to fully hide it. And I built up thermoplastic around it to hide all those wires, blended in everything as much as I could, adding textures here of using various techniques. Just, finishing up these sirens, there are just a plethora of sirens that are out there. Of course, I thought the most unique ones were the rusty ones, which they had the most texture, they had the most character and history. I stuck more with the traditional sirens that the Siren Head character himself used, which are, like the round ones, but like the mega sirens or the megaphones, those ones are crazy big and crazy loud. Me and my son, we would sit there sometimes at nighttime for 15 to 30 minutes just listening to different kinds of sirens and picking out which ones would suit Siren Head the best. And we just went with the more classical one. As you can see, I found out that thermoplastic, you can make it paper thin. And I loved the effect that it gave to my Siren Head, where it looks like it's literally dried pieces of skin layered on top over the rib cages. Just doing lots of washes. I didn't like the first kind of skin yellowish green. I was trying to find like a balance between old dried out rotten skin. I looked at a lot of mummified skins, and the skin and the tones, the color tones of all those skins really varied a lot depending on how the mummification process actually, how old the mummy was, what kind of process they did to the person. So I just kind of went in the middle and then kind of went off on my own. I am definitely not a sculptor, painter first. I'm just a sculptor. So a lot of this is trial and error for me. I personally like all the cords and tendons and I guess their veins. Those were some of my favorite pieces to make. I know some people made some very cool Siren Heads out there that are just stagnant sculptures, which is fine. I wanted to take it. When I make something like this, I want it to be alive. And the possibility of what I could do with this figurine is endless, the movies. However, I don't plan on really making any more action figures like this, or but there it is. The video isn't that great. I don't know why. I just couldn't get it quite right. But there it is. It's pretty cool. Now that it's all done, and when I look at it, when I still go up there to my son's room. And if you found this interesting, if you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. I appreciate it. Thank you.